Thanks for viewing this information. For those of us that are here together in the meeting today, we're really trying to get together and let you ask questions, but mostly put your mind at ease about the deadlines or expectations with Frontline. We'll have some further information related to our district goals and department goals coming out within the next week or so, maybe 2 weeks. But really, today's presentation and slides that we put together is to explain Frontline, maybe explain some of the features that are in Frontline, and especially for new staff, it's helpful to do this sooner rather than later in the year because you might be anxious about it, and you shouldn't be. It's a teacher evaluation process that is meant to capture some of the non-tenured growth over the first 3 years, and then eventually in year 4 move into a tenure status evaluation. When Becky referred to her profile might look a little bit differently, it will look differently because the non-tenured profile looks different from the tenure teacher profile. For example, the expectation for Becky is to have one evaluation by an administrator over the course of 3 years. So her profile will show one evaluation opportunity. You can add more in, but a non-tenured teacher's observation will have 3 evaluations over the course of the first 3 years. So one of the just basic explanations that the profiles will look differently. And lastly, as Becky was doing setup for this, if you have the majority of your work in early childhood, for example, speech teachers can work in early childhood, elementary, and also high school, we would expect that your Frontline information and deadlines come from the site where you provide the majority of your service. So if you're a nurse working in just early childhood, for example, you would get your deadlines from Becky and I, and you would probably avoid, if you're on the email list from a certain school site, I don't want to say avoid, but pay attention more to our timelines than the site timelines. That make sense? Let me pause and see if Becky or anybody wants to ask a question. Maybe let's go to the next slide then. So I don't want to necessarily read everything, but you have, if you're a new staff member, you have an account and you have a login information. And let me see if by show of thumbs up, does everybody know what your account is? And have you? That's great. I saw a lot of thumbs up. And if you don't, you can always ask questions of Brenda Vietz. She is a great resource for any problems that you might see with your account. Some of those problems could include, you might have the wrong profile at times. Sometimes we have the therapeutic specialist as a profile, and it might be inappropriately given to you when you should have had the teacher profile. And Brenda can fix that. And it's often better to fix that before you start recording or entering some information, because if we have to change it, it wipes your account. So make sure your profile is set up first before you start building your information in the Frontline system. And if you have questions, even Becky or I can answer those questions as well. Next slide. So that's what the login page looks like. And has everybody been at least in one time at least? I asked the first question that do you have an account, but have you been in one time, everybody? Show of thumbs up or not? No, not everybody's been in one time. Okay, so that's okay. And so it's a teacher evaluation system, but it's also a goal setting. And that's part of what the timelines were for the end of September. There's a goal setting document, and then there's also a self-reflection page that needs to be filled out at the beginning of each school year as well. And that is what we were referring to as the timelines that are now being reset to October 12th. Becky, is that right?
Well, tentatively, yes, but we might have to move a staff meeting, so it might get extended a little further because we really want goal setting to be collaborative and linking to PLC work. So we feel like more importantly, doing the work together versus just getting it done is going to be more meaningful for people. So that's why it might be extended. Just one more comment about this login page. Frontline is the word frontline is used for many companies in many places. So if you type in Frontline and don't add education, You might go to many different sites that you don't want. So it's nice to see this imagery for your first time, second time use, so that you know you're in the right place. So that's why we included some images for you.
It's also used, I understand, for our application process too. So I can go in not only for teacher evaluations, but in the same system, go in and look at new hire information and look at your applications. So at times it's confusing in that regard. So one other thing, and great, you can stay here, Rachel, this is perfect. This system, the teacher evaluation system, is also linked to PLCs, and it's linked to, in essence, creating change with students and moving the needle on student data, in essence. So you set your goal projects, not only individually, departments, and district. And the last few years, our district goal has been correlated to raising reading rates within the whole district. And that goal, district goal, gets approved through what's called our quality leadership team, district quality leadership. And that this year's goal has not been approved because they haven't had that meeting yet. But I can give a forecast that I expect it will be around reading, and probably, if not exactly the same as last year, because of the COVID shutdown, it might have the same similar type content that we had last year. So it gets evaluated. Non-tenured staff, I already kind of hinted at this, 3 times each year for 3 years. And that dates long back to Duluth and Minneapolis and St. Paul, were cities of the first class, so we could have different rules for our 3 cities. And it's still in place now. And even though a few districts have grown larger than Duluth schools, we are the 3 districts that are considered the cities of the first class right now. So special education staff, you may get evaluations from myself, Jackie Ward, or possibly a site administrator. Many times in early childhood, Jackie or I do all 3. And our final list of who's going to do each person isn't yet finalized yet, because a lot of our positions recently just got posted. For example, some of our early childhood positions got posted K through 6, and there might need to be some tweaks. Historically, Jackie's done more 3 to 5 evaluations, and I've done more birth to 2, but there's been some crossover as well. And then we also have certain related service groups, or other people call it district-wide service groups. I do, for example, the nurses. Jackie has historically done the PT group, and that's just a couple examples of the related service groups that we oversee. So be thinking about who will do your evaluation, and more to come on that specific administrator. Next slide. Unless there's questions, this is a great meeting for questions. So if something pops up, I don't know if you have the nod feature, or Becky or Rachel, keep an eye on hands being raised. I love to just raise my own hand in a meeting, so feel free to interject a question at any time. So this slide, as I said, Becky's an example of a tenured teacher that they get a 3-year rotation and get at minimum one evaluation over the course of every 3 years. And HR typically informs all administrators, and it can change as people move around from site to site. It could move site locations depending upon where you provide the most support. For example, speech teachers often have this happen, where they might provide 75% of their service at a particular school. That's probably the site where they will get their evaluation, but it could change from year to year. Next slide. I should have waited for all these slides to pop up before I talked about them. I talked about this a little bit before, that in that observation cycle, yes, you do have a self-evaluation document to complete. There's a goal-setting document, and we will help with that. A lot of that information will come from Becky and myself, or where you'll just be able to just cut and paste. And then when you get a formal observation, there's a pre-observation form, which is typically done before the in-person from administrator. And that's basically just a way to communicate back and forth. Is here's the site, here's the activity where I'm going to be performing this skill with a particular child or class. And then there should be maybe one more in the middle, which is the formal observation, which I type up, and then I sit down with you and say, here's the evidence that I collected during the observation. That's in the middle of the pre and the post. And then lastly, you as a teacher will do a post-observation form after the formal observation. So that's kind of in a nutshell what the observation process looks like to start the school year. But obviously, if you get three observations over the course of the year, you're going to do 3 pre-observation forms and 3 post-observations form for each evaluation throughout the course of the year. All right, next slide, please. Beck, you want to help me out? This is your slide. Yep.
Yeah. So this just is a nice little example of your Frontline learning plan dashboard. If you get in there and you're not seeing this, or you don't have assignments, that's that good time to email Brenda Viets, or give me a shout and say I'm not seeing what I'm supposed to be seeing. Technology is not flawless and humans aren't either. So there's always room for adjusting if what you open up and look at is not something we've kind of talked about today. So this is just another visual to kind of give you a gist of what you're going to see. Next slide. This is kind of what the self-review looks like. Jason, I had a question in there. Is first year teachers or first year staff, are they still in domains 1 and 3, or do I need to edit that?
So there's 4 domains, and domain 1 and 4 are what happens outside of a kid service or a classroom teaching session. 1 and 4 is about more planning and reflection on your practice. If I'm correct, if I remember this correctly, I haven't been in teacher evaluations actually for 6 months. Domains 2 and 4 are actually what you see in classrooms. So is that what you're asking about, Becky, explaining the different domains? And actually, teachers have responsibility for their self-review to fill out all 4 domains.
Sorry, I'll just take that out of the slide presentation for further notice. They'll fill out 1 through 4.
Yeah, and then when we do the formal observations, that's where it turns back to domains 2 and 3 are the focus of the formal observations.
Okay, this next page is just that goal setting form. So you'll see there's a drop down there. We will plunk in your district goal, not for you. You'll get an email that has district goal, and this is the page it goes on. School goal, we've developed that together. That will be another one that's given to you. Really the goal that you need to think about or work on, and we're doing this as a group, so you're gonna never be alone on this, is your personal goal. If you want to use what's presented to you as we work in groups and PLCs, you certainly can. But if you have your heart's on something else and you want to improve on another thing, that's up to you. I don't see this. I just am trying to pave the way so you have a easier time and a team approach towards making improvements. Next form, unless Jason wants to add to that. No. This is just an example of that observation form. You just fill in what they're looking at. You fill in what the evidence is going to be. So you're really just saying, hey, Jason, hey, Jackie, look at this when you're observing me, because this is what I'm trying to show you. It's really a teacher-supported process.
I'll add just a comment while we're on this particular slide. So there's typically about, depending upon the rubric that you're operating under. For example, teacher looks different than the therapeutic specialist, and the nurse rubric look different. So they have a different number of questions, but it's typically around 6 or 7 questions that are on the pre-observation and the post-observation form. I've had people write me novels in these text boxes. I don't encourage you to do that. I encourage you to consider three sentences, 3 bullet points in each of these sections. And some of them might be non-applicable. For example, think about all the unique things that an administrator can observe in the special education world. It could be direct kid service. It could be an evaluation planning meeting. It could be an IFSP, an IEP-like meeting where you're negotiating service. It could be direct service. So many times the questions don't match with what the administrator observing, feel free to use not applicable.
And this is just the post-observation. It's like, to what extent was a task successful in meeting the stated instructional outcome? So it's like, how do you know that how well did you do it? Just giving your evidence. It's your time to shine. It's nice to share specific projects or pieces of, like I did this X, Y, or Z, or have examples ready. Like when you've really accomplished something, try to jot yourself a note. So when you come to do this, you can get rid of the Minnesota nice and brag about yourself. It's a good place for it. Next slide, please. Then I'll let Jason take over.
Is this our last slide, Beck? Oh, so I think we're coming to the end though, but we will give out more information about who and when. Most often, first evaluations are attempted to be completed by November, and then second observations typically happen hopefully by the end of February, and then a third observation is completed typically before the end of April, but not necessarily. We do have, especially for early childhood, I've done some evaluations in July, hoping to get a jump start because we have early childhood teachers that provide service in the summer. There's really a wide window of opportunity to provide evaluations and frontline information. You have opportunities to also upload information like lesson plans, or this is the particular skill that I'm going to teach a kid. You could like map out that skill in a document that you could upload, and you could store that for future use for yourself to view as well. One last example, like for example, Bree's in the meeting today, and Bree does some early childhood work. So I or Jackie will do one of our observations, but she also has some great connections at a particular school site. And I would expect that school administrator will do one of her evaluations or possibly more as well. Jackie and I typically, historically, have averaged around, honestly, it's about 50 evaluations a year, which is too high. We've said that it's too high. We wish we could make more direct contact, longer contacts, and be able to work more closely with people. When you're operating at a clip of about 50 evaluations for staff a year, you have to do it a little bit quicker. And for example, site administrators don't have 50. If we can lean on some of our site administration, be thinking about that, because they can often be a helpful source to get a great documentation in the Frontline system for you. So most often in Frontline, there's a primary administrator attached, but we can always add in more people. For example, if I'm going to pop in, this is just a suggestion, don't make this the norm, and it would typically be Katie Munch be observed by Jackie Ward 3 times. But if I'm coming to an evaluation summary meeting and Katie Munch knows that I'm going to attend that meeting, I could perform one of those observations and help out Jackie, help out Katie, just help out the workload, to say the least. So just be thinking about those opportunities where you can request an administrator to be involved. Any questions from the group? I'll add one more reflection that our goal is to keep people employed. I often tell people as I start my frontline information when we do interactions face-to-face with this individual person, is I'm all about coaching, or trying to find coaching things that I can coach people up so that you remain employed with the Duluth Public Schools. By all means, I've had to write staff evaluations that say things like, the employee is not completing their special ed evaluations and IEPs in a timely fashion. Please correct this action, or we've had to let people go in the past. So if that needs to happen, we can coach those things up too, but it is extremely rare that we ever use punitive things. If we can find ways to support people to do good work in this district, we want to keep you around. So that's my goal, and I truly believe in that. So feel free, that it's an open process, ask questions, and let's find the ways to support each other, and that's my goal as an administrator. Becky, anything else?